My guild is dead!
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
How did we get here? How did we get here? Let's pick some people for this. Let's go. This guy. 2 hunters, not ideal. We got a ranged. Maybe we'll get a ranged. Let's get this guy. I'll go the all melee. More of souls. Why not? My guild is dead. My guild is dead. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Anyway, the last giveaway is over. The keyboard is on its way out. The next thing on our list, we're going with 3DK, is this. So EasySMX, the guys who gave us the keyboard, also sent us this. And no gamer should be without one, which is a wireless controller for your PC. If you have a PC, and I know many of you only play WoW, and you're like, why would I need a controller? Trust me, when the day comes, and it will come for all of you if it hasn't yet, where you try out some other games, you're going to want one of these. So I tried this out. This thing is bang on. Full wireless controller. We'll put down a hashtag down below to get that. So thank you very much to EasySMX for sending us the keyboard and the controller. You guys have been rock solid with us. So I need to tell this story. We're doing a relatively low M+. It's like a 14, just so I can focus on what I want to talk about today. How did this happen? Because over this expansion, actually, I've been extraordinarily proud of my guild. Really proud of my guild. Things have gone better than ever. I joined... excuse me. I joined this my current raid team when it was Stark Industries. It is more, isn't it? I'm doing the key. Yeah. I joined the guild when it was still in Stark Industries, which is a community-based guild. So, a long time ago, Andy wanted to start a community guild. I was against the idea, as many people know. I was against the idea because I knew I wasn't going to be there very often. I often log in because I have something to film, or I'm raiding, and after that, I'm off editing. So I switch the game off and I go and do other things, and I'm working in the background to make videos for you guys. So I didn't want people paying for transfers and things to come over and generally disappoint them that they'd maybe invested money to come and play with me and I wasn't going to be there. So I was against the idea, but it took on a life of its own. It very quickly filled up with a lot of people who have the same mentality of wanting to learn and looking for places they can make mistakes. So there was like no requirements, basic raid things, and then the members started to take on their own things. So people rose to prominence. People like Vanish, who many of you will know, and Augurs and Dreed. These guys started running raid school, essentially, where they would get a few raiders and they would take people to the current content raids with very little to no requirements. It was like, you know, be appropriately geared, which is not like be over geared. Raid experience, not a must. Is the Hunter going to be the first here? He's the one I'm summoning. And we'll take you raiding, and we'll show you what's going on, and we'll show you what raid leadership is like, and things like that. And from then, it grew into, like, I think at one point, it had 5 individual raid teams. At the start of Legion, I knew I wanted to raid again. I had to stop during Warlords of Draenor because of my kids. My second child was born, so that happened just before we got to Manaroth Mythic. I believe it was around then. Might have been Zul'Harak Mythic, something like that. And I was like, sorry boys, but I need to pop off, man. I'm about to have a child. So when it came back to it and looking for Legion, I was looking for guilds, and I applied to a few, but because of my notoriety, the higher level guilds, the higher level guilds definitely wanted some sort of input into the content I made that involved them. And what I mean by that is they were very aware. One second, let me make sure I start the key on time. They wanted to know things like, well, if you record a raid group or something, are we going to see something out of that? And I was like, oh, this is getting messy, real messy. So I was looking for a higher progress than what Stark was at. I think at the time when I joined, I just basically spoke to him. I was like, dude, this sucks. What have we got? Volcanic teaming. Okay. That shouldn't be a problem for anyone. Go on, birdie birds. There shouldn't be a problem for anyone. So I'll join here. It's not the kind of progress I was looking for. It was much, much further behind than what I'm used to. There is no doubt about that. Way further behind than what I'm actually used to. But it should be fine, right? Like, I just wanted to raid. That's all I wanted to do, was just raid. I didn't want to mess around and fuck around or anything. I didn't want to be in this situation where I felt like my job was going to interfere, because raiding is my relaxing time. That's why I don't stream my raids or anything like that. And so I just joined Stark, which was their team 1, like I say, about World 700th, something like that, I think, at the time. Maybe slightly higher, but around there. And they were just really open. They were like, no worries, dude, we got your back. You know, don't even sweat it. That was basically the attitude. It's like, don't even fucking sweat it. And I was so happy, and I joined those guys, and at that point I kind of like stopped caring too much about progress, because I was raiding with people I really liked, and that was so much more important to me. It was raiding with people that I really, really liked, really good friends, people I'd actually met IRL, things like that. And I just settled into it. And over the course of Legion, they progressed to now, which is like in the top 300, which is really high. It is really quite high. In terms of like actual guild progress. So they're a cutting edge guild at this point, right? That's the crazy thing. They're actually a cutting edge guild, and I'm very grateful that that is the situation. I was super grateful that that was the situation, because I wasn't expecting it to be like that in any way, shape, or form, but that is how it turned out to be. And over Legion, we got stronger and stronger as a team. Really got so much stronger as a team. And I was so impressed by them, because they stuck through some really hard stuff. Because Legion, despite the popular theory about Legion being, like, too easy, certainly in case of Antorus, like, oh, it's too easy, blah, 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 blah. All that stupid shit that we read about. It's not true. Like, at all. It's not true at all. It's actually been extraordinarily hard. Antorus has certainly been generally easier, but it's still an extremely tough boss. An extremely tough instance to get through. And they overcame it all, and they did it, and I showed this several times, they did it by basically having the exact same guys. The exact same raid team that pulled Nithendra and Ormal were still the same guys who pretty much stood in front of Gul'dan's corpse. Which is really good. Believe it or not, that is really good. Okay, so then we moved into TOS. TOS was a bit of a game changer. TOS was where people were definitely feeling this grind that I'm talking about. Hit them. I'm going to trinket this one. That's fine. TOS is where we definitely felt the strain on a lot of players. Very early on, we lost 2 of our long-standing members who were real key members of the guild. We lost them. That was really sad. They were like, "We've just had enough. This is it. This is where we call it a day." I was like, "Well, can't argue with that. You know, if your guys are telling you that's it, then that's it." You know what I mean? That's it. And then so obviously replacements had to be found. Now, that disrupted the core team, for sure. That disrupted the core team. And I noticed it. I mean, everyone noticed that things were a little different. You know, things weren't exactly as they were, which is kind of okay. It was guilds change and modify, but it definitely had a different atmosphere. Definitely had a different atmosphere. We got some very good players. I'm not going to deny we got some very good players, but something was slightly different, and I mentioned it a couple of times, and certainly towards the Kill Jaden Mythic, I was noticing it was a little odd, like in places, you know. But overall, it was still the same team. 80% of the same squad. Now, that just got worse and worse, unfortunately. In terms of, like, just the core team kind of just saying no more. The core team just kind of saying no more, you know, I'm going to move out. Now, we didn't lose that many players. Probably only like 3 or 4. But that's all it could take. Is 3 or 4 of the guys who have been through a lot. And, you know, I've been with the guild for years and years and years. That's where it can really change rather dramatically. Now, when it came to Antorus, I know personally I was feeling very burned out. Certainly, I was feeling very burned out. And I was quite happy that Antorus seemingly was easier than what we had dealt with in Antorus. Not in Antorus, in Tomb. It seemingly was easier. Now, Andy's here. I'm hoping he's got his key. He should have his key.
Got more than
oh, he's got his key. Okay, okay. I'm doing an emergency TDP filming. Andy's just got to work. And that was the situation. Can you close that door, Andy? Is it closed? Okay, thank you. I was definitely feeling burned out by Antorus. And knowing that it was slightly easier, I can't even say I was angry. I was not. I was fucking happy. I was really happy. I was like, okay, we're going to be done with this relatively quickly. Compared to, say... compared to Tomb, anyway, we're going to be done relatively quickly. I'm really happy about that. I'm really, really happy about that. And life should go on and be happy. Life should go on and be happy. And I can actually take a step back, because if you think about it, Legion's raiding has been very back-to-back. Very back-to-back, and has got harder and harder each and every time. If you've done it. If you haven't done it, then it doesn't matter. You don't get it. So, working through... Antorus, I'll tell you, like, I started sniffing that something wasn't right around the time we got to Kingaroth. Around that time, that's when I really started to notice something wasn't right. And it was generally just the raid bants had changed pretty significantly. Like, the raid bants had changed pretty goddamn significantly. To certain people who were definitely usually quite on the ball and fun, definitely seemingly being way more pissy or just less interested. I certainly started noticing people were talking a lot more on alternative discords, so you can see, you know, occasionally they'll pop in saying something and they're not talking on yours. Now that's pretty normal. That's a pretty normal thing, but definitely, you know, discussions and things were taking place. Now we are coming to the end of the expansion. Right? Now, ordinarily... Did I just drop a death and decay over there? Sometimes I wonder if I'm too good at this game. I started wondering... Oh, I bet I know what this is. This is people who are going to leave soon, right? These guys are going to leave soon. Because BFA is coming, and end of expansion is like the perfect time to leave a guild, right? It's the perfect times. I feel bad for my boy Biorius here, because these guys are taking every side under the sun, but that's fine. Let's make sure they got some room here. This is going to be the hardest, but even on a 14, this is going to be the harder boss in here. Oh, scythe. There was definitely something that wasn't right. Definitely was something that wasn't right. And I noticed it, and I was thinking about it, like, on and off. And then I got the kind of the whisper. Kind of the whisper was like... Because obviously we have chats, and our officer team is very open. Very, very open to chats. And we talked about that in the podcast we did about guild management, is that our officer team prides itself on being pretty open about making sure they're accessible and people can talk to them. So I got the whisper, and it's like, I'm sure, and it kind of like, because my officers aren't dumb. So they were kind of like, I'm sure you're aware that the roster is going to look pretty different once we get into BFA. And I was like, yeah, I have noticed. I have definitely noticed something. And they're like, yeah, so, I mean, people have been really good about it. Now, what do I mean by that? Because I think a lot of people see the end of a guild as being a really sort of, like, fuck you experience. It doesn't need to be that way at all. If you're in a guild and it's time to call it a day, the best thing you could do in the, for your guild, honestly, is to tell them. Is to tell them what's going to happen, and also be respectful. Like, if you're at the very end of an instance, for sure, is you let the guys know, like, you know what, BFA, I'm going to push a little harder, but we're pretty much done with the dungeon, so I'm just letting you know now that I probably won't be here in the future, but obviously we're midway through a dungeon, so maybe I'm going to stay here. Now, that's going to differ from time to time, but if you're in a guild that's guaranteeing killing everything and is progressing at a steady rate, which we were, then that's likely to what's happened. So that's happened regularly, and I honestly recommend that as the best way if you're going to move, is to move after you know, especially if you're playing some sort of key role, is to move at an appropriate time. And that appropriate time would certainly be like once a raid's done, unless your guild's obviously like permanently stuck, then you know, you make your decision anyway. Ah, damn it. No, we didn't want these, but we got these. Looks like we're doing some soloing, boys. All the DPS is dead. We got this. I would recommend that. I think that's really fair to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm ready for a bit more. So I'm going to push a little harder in the next expansion, just to make your guild aware and they can look around. It gives them time to find other people. The worst thing you can do when leaving a guild, the absolute worst thing you can do is just fucking disappear. Like, that's just a shitty thing to do. Especially if you've been, it's just so shitty, it's just to disappear. Just let people know, like, what's the problem? Unless you have a hatred or something, or some sort of burning horror with the guild, or you feel like you've been slighted in some way, besmirched, your good name has been besmirched. Whatever it might be. I would certainly just have a little courtesy and just say, you know, I'm leaving, or as soon as you feel like it, make sure you let your problems be known. Don't dwell on your issues. Don't do anything like that. So obviously a few people had this conversation, which you would expect from a guild that's been together for so long, is that they had this conversation saying, you know, I'm probably going to leave, and that involved one of our main tanks who'd been with the guild for probably 5 years. You've seen him in many TDPs. Shade was saying, you know, I've got 1 year. I think Shade's got 1 year left of university, and if he wants to try being really high end, this is kind of his last try at it, right? Which is great. Full support too. I'd fucking hold his hand along the way. I really would, and I'll help him. We'll help each other along the way 100% of the time. I don't know if you understand Tyrannical, but that will kill you doing things like that. Well, never mind. Who's gonna die? No one. Hey, pretty good. Make sure I don't do anything dumb here. So some of the DPS we're going to leave as well, which is fine. Again, like I said, I'd wish those guys all the best 100% of the time. Now, what happened then is it got a little weird, and this was over the last week or so, is whatever was going on, seemingly, now, I've got to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I don't really know 100% of the details of this, and that's kind of by intention, because it happened very swiftly to the point that it's obviously with death to the guild. It's seemingly a lot of these guys had already made applications or had put feelers out that they wanted to be somewhere, and along that note, it seems the guilds they were going to weren't willing to wait for us to finish Argus and wanted those guys now to keep their raids going. That seems to have been what's happened. So instead of it being like, hey, I'm applying for Battle for Azeroth, you get, because obviously the guilds the guys have gone to, that's the worst start I could have hoped for. The guilds the guys have gone to have already killed Argus, and our guild was killing Argus. That's where we were. And what seemingly happened is the guilds the guys applied to, instead of being like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, we're looking for our to boost our roster for Battle for Azeroth, we're on farm status, no worries. It seems that instead, it's now become, it changed to, well, we kind of need you guys here to keep our raids going. And the guys were left with a choice, which was, what do we do? Do we wait or do we go? And as you can probably guess which one came out, is the guys decided that they were going to go. And that's it. So why didn't we, like, rescue the guild? Well, knowing that one of the two, because one of the officers was going to, was planning on quitting after Legion to, you know, focus on RL and stuff. Our other officer, which is the main tank, he was leaving, as we well know. That would have left two of the officer team, who are the original officer team. And frankly, those guys... he just realised he hadn't lusted. Is that awkward moment? You're like, oh yeah. Bloodlust. Ooh, this is tricky. Let's go around here. Oh, he's down. Oh, no, not two of you. To be fair, it is very awkward to see that. Oh, I should have interrupted that. There we go. Solid Bloodlust, 10 out of 10. The officers just said, you know, we're not really willing to rebuild this, because in total we're going to lose like 6 or 7 people. In total we're going to lose like 6 or 7 people. 2 of them are going to be long-standing officers. A lot of the other ones... a lot of the other guys are good players that aren't going to be easy to replace. And frankly, we're now going to have to recruit just for Argus. And with the way things are, we probably don't want to carry this on in BFA. So we're going to be recruiting people. We're going to be recruiting people for one boss. People are going to be server transferring. And then, what, we're going to tell them it's all over? It's just... we might have to reprogress some Vantaurus, which, as I said at the beginning... we're already kind of burned out on raiding in Legion. So nobody really wants to reprogress shit. Nobody wants to do that. So that's what's happened. That is the situation. And it happened... I forgot how quickly this can happen. I forgot how quickly it can happen and how dangerous it can be. Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. Seers. Is that in party? Yeah, it is. And that's it. So I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do yet. I put some feelers out there, maybe. Because I kind of feel really salty about not finishing Argus. We were already progressing on Argus. We're already on our way. And I kind of feel really salty that Argus is the last guy standing. But I have done some of the fight, and it's not a very good fight. So in one way, I'm like... you know what I mean? Do I want to throw myself into that wall and smash my head against it just for the sake of completion? And part of me says, yes! Yeah, I do want to do that. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do. But that's the scenario. That's the scenario. So I'm a little salty about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little salty about the whole thing. Because we were nearly done. That's the way I looked at it. We were nearly done. And after that, it wouldn't have been a problem. The guild could have disbanded. It could have done anything. People wanted to go their separate ways. It just happened to happen on the very last boss of the very last expansion. And for a guild that has... been so rock solid for so long with just the same group of people that has met... many times. Like, this is the thing, like, a lot of the members have met many times over the years, many times, and there's been a community. For it just to like that now of all times, that's pretty sour for me. That's pretty sour for me, but that is the way it goes sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, TDP. I'll put the hashtag down below to win the controller. Thank you. Bye bye.